Perhaps more than any other town in Ireland, Kinsale's revival is linked with its past, its traditions, its architecture, its charm. Kinsale contrasts the old and the new and takes a conscious pride in its history. Indeed, the people here have realised the value of its European influence, and there are those who say that its revival stemmed from the restoration of its old courthouse. Restoration is important here. There is much to preserve to retain the town's character. These almshouses, built almost 300 years ago by Sir Robert Southwell, clerk to the Privy Council of Charles II, are an example. Work is to start soon on their restoration. Sir Robert was a native of Kinsale and built them for 8 old people. His gesture was prompted by the hardship and ill health of his youth, and this, he wrote, led him into a reflection of the misery of those who were poor and destitute. He resolved that, as God should give him ability and opportunity, he would make provision for some helpless and decayed old people, that they might shelter and be provided with some conveniences towards ending their days in rest. Now, only one person lives in them. The other houses have been unoccupied since the end of World War II. The years have taken their toll, and these typically 17th century buildings, rare in Ireland, require urgent repair, though they are scarcely altered exteriorly. They need, too, running water and modern sanitation, and the annual endowment is only £50. This costs money, £5,000 at least, on top of the board fortune grants, but a committee headed by the rector of Kinsale, Reverend Oliver Peer, has raised already £1,500 for what they regard as a worthwhile project. Are these houses worth restoring?
Yes, they are, and for 2 reasons, historically and charitably. The gift houses are of great historical value. They're very old buildings, and they make a very picturesque group. As well as that, they're in character with the rest of Kinsale. And the committee that are dealing with this are really a continuation of an earlier committee which was made up long ago to try to preserve the character of Kinsale. And that committee was extremely successful in the restoration of the old courthouse in the town. And then, of course, no less important is the charitable part of it, because we are very anxious that we should be able to carry out the intention of the original donor and provide homes for old and destitute people.
Aside from grants, this work is going to cost £5,000. Now, is this not a lot of money for restoration when perhaps you could have achieved more by new building?
Well, of course, there are 5 houses, and we will be able to provide these houses, lift them up to modern standards for £5,000 and house quite a number of people, whereas one could only really build 2 council houses for the same price.
Have you thought specifically in terms of restoring for posterity? What about fabrication? Surely there's an answer here.
That is true, but then we would have lost, first of all, the historical interest, and we would also not be carrying out the original terms of Sir Robert Southwell's gift. It's 300 years since he set out to relieve distress, and there are still a great many people who do need this sort of help.
Once these houses are restored, is there the likelihood of a recurring debt on them?
Well, of course, we will have to look after the maintenance of the houses, but we are advised by those people who know about these things, the contractors, architects and engineers, that once the houses are put in order, the annual endowment, which is about £50, should be sufficient to keep them in good state of repair.